Hello, I'm CJ Baumgartner. Welcome to the Morning Sports Desk powered by Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade, Minnesota State High School League 2025 State Wrestling Tournament Special. I'm CJ Baumgartner. Corey Tackman is going to join in just a second. Before we get into some interviews with United North Central head wrestling coach Jake Oyster and Staples-Motley assistant wrestling coach Shane Tappe, I do want to remind you we are going to have state wrestling coverage on our radio station, 101.7 FM and AM920 KWAD. You can also stream it online at wadenaradio.com/KWAD. We are going to have coverage of the Staples-Motley and United North Central wrestling teams in their match that has an 8:30 pregame and 9 o'clock in the morning match start. Now, no matter what happens for both teams, we will be following United North Central and Staples-Motley as a team all day long. Again, that is all going to be on KWAD. For the individual tournament, we will have coverage all day Saturday and all day Friday as well, all on KWAD, your home for the state wrestling coverage. And you can find that full broadcast schedule, any more information online at wadenaradio.com or at SportsCal on Facebook. That being said, let's get along with the show, shall we?
Central Minnesota Sports Hub. It's the Morning Sports Desk, presented by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and streaming on YouTube.
It is the Morning Sports Desk State Tournament Preview Special for the State Wrestling Tournament, powered by Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena. I'm CJ Baumgartner. That's Corey Tackman. And Corey, we got a special guest here to help us get ready for the State Wrestling Tournament.
Yeah, that's right. UNC wrestling coach Jake Oyster joins us. Congratulations, coach, right out of the gate. What another, 4 years in a row now for your Warriors?
This will make 4, yeah.
Pretty incredible stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't get old. It's fun.
So I guess kind of we'll start out here. Just talk about that section run for you guys. Just talk about the section tournament. Just kind of give us the path on what it took for you guys to get back to the state tournament and win Section 8A.
Okay, if you want me to start at the beginning of the season, we started out hot and we were expecting this the whole time, and we had a great duel. Our first duel was against Bertha, who I think were hopefuls to get out of their section at the time. And we kind of put it on them, and we're we're pretty excited. You always think you have a good product, but it's really fun when you find out and see what they look like on the mat. And then we started dealing with some injuries and maybe put some question in our mind, but we started getting healthier at the right time. And we had Greenbush that Tuesday in the first round of our sections. That's how we do the first round Tuesday, and then the final 4 on that Friday. And that Tuesday, quite honestly, we didn't look that great, but I didn't get too panicky because it seemed like every time we had a down event, the next one we kind of rebounded and wrestled well, and that's what we did on Friday. We squeaked by Boston Bagley, who was a really good school. They're had a really tough down low, and we did what we needed to do to get some points out below, and then our upper weights kind of sealed the deal against them. And then Frazee, kind of the same thing. We got a handful down low and a couple bonus points where we needed them. And then when it came down to we got down to the heavyweight, they needed to pin us to even bring it to a tie or to win. And I can't remember the exact situation, but I feel really confident anytime it comes down to our heavyweight or our last 2 guys anyways.
So you came into the section tournament as a 3 seed. You mentioned injuries during the season, and we always have this conversation of like, was there a moment, right? You thought, hey, this is really a state tournament berth is on the horizon for us, but you start dealing with those injuries. You come in as a 3 seed. Was it maybe the app? Like, did it make you nervous? Were you scared, or did you know guys were getting healthy at the right time?
Yeah, not so much scared. After we kind of knew that timeline on some of these injuries, we knew we got the 3 seed because we dropped a match with Boston earlier that year, and we knew we left a lot of points on the table because of some of those guys that were out with injury. Knowing they're still a good team, but just knowing that the likely outcome of some of those guys that were missing was a lot of points that put us in favor, at least. So not too worried with the seed, and just as we saw those guys come back from the injuries and get better, because some of them were out for over a month, and their first event back wasn't the product that we left them on, but they're all starting to look pretty good now. So.
Yeah, you mentioned dealing with those injuries throughout the season and obviously getting healthy at the right time. But when you're kind of in the middle of that season and you have some wrestlers go down and you have to, kind of right the ship and keep everything ready and still a wrestling team all around that's got some high expectations, what was your message to the team throughout the year, no matter who was injured or no matter what was going on? What was kind of the message you would tell them to keep everybody on track and focused on you guys' ultimate goals?
Well, I have a lot of good coaches, and they were telling them all the right things, like you guys control your controllables, and the rest will work out. We might drop some duels, and we just can't dwell on that. We just know that when our team's out there and we're full, that we're going to be just fine. So we dropped 3 duels this season. I think all of them are winnable, but that's okay. Everyone goes through the same things. If you can have a season without injuries and have your best lineup out there every single time, you probably have a pretty good season, but not very many teams are capable of doing that. And we're lucky we got some depth in some positions. So when we have certain guys out, it's not a big deal. But we started losing some guys in those middleweights, and it seems like a weight or a place where you should have a lot of depth, but we just didn't for whatever reason this year. We need to get some more guys out, and so when those injuries happen, we can maybe handle it a little bit better. But we had to get creative and move those. I suppose specifically the Cole boys got bumped around a little bit and had to do what we needed to do to win some duels and compete our best. But
sure. It seems like, and especially the way you talked about the way the season started, coming into this with some pretty high confidence in the 24-25 season, is a state tournament berth, is that a vocal conversation amongst you and your coaching staff and the team, or does that cliche always follow? It's one match at a time, one day at a time, one practice at a time, and we see where it takes us.
Well, a little bit of both. I think we'll address that our goals. We're beyond. We thought we were kind of beyond like talking about section tournament. We thought state tournament, we need to get some hardware, and that's what we talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But we talk about that a little bit at the beginning of the season, and then I don't bring it up too much because the focus is always on the next thing in front of you, and let the season take care of itself, and then we'll address it when it comes to section time a little bit more and talk about. But even with sections, you're talking about that next opponent. Like, we had to beat 2 really good teams to get there. So we weren't talking about Frazee till we were pretty much done with Boston.
Yeah, and for you guys throughout the year, obviously you said you've had some wrestlers step up, you've had some wrestlers do some good things, and obviously with a team that's going to the state tournament, you have a lot of them. But who are a few wrestlers that have stood out to you over the course of the season, whether, hey, they came in with some high expectations and they matched them, or somebody who really surprised you with kind of where they went from A to B throughout the course of the season? Just who are a few wrestlers on your team that really kind of have stood out to you as the season's gone along?
I'll throw a shout out to my 114 pounder. I think he kind of came out last year, not even at the beginning of the season, and we didn't really have a whole lot of options at 114. Talked him into going down. He kind of had an open spot and made the cut. And he's just he's so easy to have on the team because he does everything right, and he's so coachable. So every single match that kid gets better. His name's Anton Anderson, and just a young 9th grader and inexperienced. But I'm so excited about him, especially going into the future. But even this year, because every match he gets a little bit better. He'll make adjustments through the match to correct some things that maybe cost him some points. And the third period, it looks way better than the first period. So a guy like him has done a lot. My whole lineup, I don't want to individualize too many people because they all put in a lot of work and continue to get better. We've got some backups that are doing everything they need to do, and I guarantee you we'll use them at the state tournament. But Eli Royko has had high expectations, I guess, the whole season, and I think we're expecting a lot out of that guy. He is just uniquely gifted, and then uniquely driven, and I think he never stops trying to score points or trying to pin people, and not very many of his matches make it out of the first period anymore. He's either tagging kids in the first periods or pin them in the first periods, and he's going to be fun to watch. And our heavyweight, we got two guys that close our lineup off great with him and Kevin Daly. Kevin's getting really smart in his wrestling, and he's super dangerous. So he's patient and getting to the positions where he's good, and if someone makes a mistake, he's going to make him pay. And not very many of his matches, maybe like one or two this whole season, have gone 6 minutes. And he's got 3 losses, but those were all at the Rumble on that Red tournament in Fargo, where there's 60, 80 teams.
Mm-hmm. So we mentioned a few individuals, but we've got a team tournament in front of us on Thursday this week. Let's go to the XL Energy Center. Let's talk a little state tournament quarterfinal action and your opening round opponent. What do you know? What can you tell us? What are you preparing for as a team that day?
Well, we know we got Staples, and we know that they're the 2 seed, right? So,
correct.
So we have not dueled them this year, but we've seen them at the Wadena tournament, and we know what they got. They're really tough down low. We think we can sneak some through the middle, and I think we're a favorite in a handful of those upper weights, like I said, with our closers. So, and there's going to be some really good matchups. Luke Davidson's boy, one of my assistant coaches, Zach, he's going to have a good shot at placing individually too, but he's going to have a tough matchup with Colby Tappe, who he met in the finals at that Wadena tournament. We had a good match with him. So that could be a potential matchup that we'll see in the individual tournament as well as the team. And they're probably favored there since they got the first one, but Zach's wrestling really good right now, so we'll see what happens. If we can sneak some of those away, we might be pretty close to him.
Yeah, exactly. And, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but once you get to the individual portion of things as well, who are a few of your individual wrestlers that have made it to the state tournament, and just kind of what are the expectations that you have in the individual portion for UNC wrestling?
Well, we qualified 6. I talked about Eli, Kevin, and Zach already, but we also sent Eli's little brother, Sam. He had a great section tournament, and really he's had some ups and downs all season, but he seems to be on a incline right now, so we're pretty excited. He won the section tournament, beat a guy that had beat him twice earlier this season and looked good doing it. So my expectations for him are pretty high, and when you get to the state tournament, anyone who qualifies, if they're wrestling their best, the records kind of go out the window, and there's always things that catch you off guard that happen, and hopefully some of those things can be our guys, because some of our seeds aren't great or their positions in the brackets, but you can only worry about that first guy, like we talked about. Same as a team tournament, you're focusing on that first guy, you do your job and keep moving, and guys that you expect to win sometimes, if you look too far down the bracket, aren't even going to be there because they get knocked out of brackets all the time. It's just like March Madness. Then moving up, we've got Conrad Cole, who made it at 152. And when he's on his wrestling his best and feeling healthy, he looks as good as anyone. So we're expecting good things about him. He is a little bit banged up too. He's one of those guys that's coming back from an injury, but he gets a little bit better every day. And we're excited to see what he'll do. And then at 189, we also sent Riley Livingston, who's one of our seniors, and he's just done everything right this year. So he's one of those guys that you're just crossing your fingers like, man, I hope this works out for him. And he also beat a couple of guys, specifically one that we lost to twice in the true second match. to go. And I was just so proud to see him do that. And I'm excited. If he keeps wrestling like that, he's going to be a landmine for someone at the state tournament.
All right. I want to know, Jake, a highlight from the season, whether it happened in a tournament somewhere, a regular season match somewhere, about a kid, about a coach, something that happened in practice. What's something that happened behind the scenes with UNC Warriors that is a fun little storyline that is a nice thread between what's happened all season long? Is there something that stands out to you?
I don't know if anything in practice or super behind the scenes, but a lot of our wrestlers help out with the elementary, and a lot of our coaching staff also is involved with our elementary wrestling. And at the section tournament, this is a highlight for me, is every time in the finals, especially against Frazee, their side would start cheering, and our crowd, probably led by those little elementary kids that had an elementary tournament the next day in Thief River that were staying overnight, they would just drown out their crowd every time they started to cheer. And that was fun and entertaining. And our crowd has always kind of done that, starting that first trip to the state tournament. And the crowd, I think, is probably underrated as far as what they do for a match. But, man, I think there's a lot of momentum that can happen in a match, and the crowd has a lot of impact on that momentum.
We're talking with United North Central head wrestling coach Jake Oyster here on the morning sports desk, powered by Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Jake, hey, we appreciate the time so much. Congratulations on winning the section, and best of luck for you guys as a team and individually down there. It's like Corey mentioned early, it's become like a yearly occurrence. You guys are heading down to the state tournament. That's awesome, and we appreciate you letting us get to know your team a little bit.
All right. Well, thanks for having me again.
We are going to get back to our state tournament preview special for the state wrestling tournament in just 1 second. But before we get any further, I do want to make sure we thank the good folks at the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena who help make the morning sports desk possible. And I have a question for you listening or watching on YouTube. What's your favorite way to celebrate with friends and family at Pizza Ranch? Tag your buffet crew and make it a buffet day at the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena. Their buffet is just excellent. You got the pizza, of course, but then you have the chicken, the mashed potatoes, you have the desserts, you have the salad bar. You have so much going on at the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena. You don't even know what to do with it. There's so much stuff. I find a way to eat way more than I should every single time because it's just so darn great. The Bronco pizza is my favorite. Got to grab a little bit of chicken as well and some mashed potatoes. And of course, you get the little chicken fries and you dip those in the gravy, and it's just perfect. You can make it a buffet day at the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena. But we got to also acknowledge the second half of that, the FunZone Arcade. You see the lights flashing as you're driving through on Highway 71, and every single time it looks like just the best. And then you walk in, and of course it is. You can play a whole bunch of different games. And while that's fun in and of itself, you then get some tickets, and you can use those tickets to win some prizes. Little is just a little bit of candy, all the way up to jerseys, mystery box jerseys, and a whole bunch of different things that you can win. All of this to make the best day for your party, work gathering, get together, whatever it is, you can have it, and you can make it a buffet day and enjoy the FunZone Arcade as well at the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena, proud sponsors of the Morning Sports Desk. Welcome in to our second interview of the Minnesota State High School League State Wrestling Tournament special on the Morning Sports Desk, powered by Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena. I'm CJ Baumgartner. That's Corey Tackman. Corey, we got another guest here to talk a little wrestling.
Indeed, we do. Staples-Motley Superintendent Shane Tappe. Shane, thanks for jumping on with us, and congratulations to that wrestling club, Holy Buckets.
Yeah, it's been a fun year. These kids have set some pretty high goals, and they were able to check a few of those goals off their list here the last couple weekends or the last couple Fridays.
Yeah,
Go ahead, PJ.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
was going to say, especially with you guys last year, you made as a team, you made the state championship match in wrestling. What was that off season like? What was that summer like as you guys started to get ready for the next season? Just what was that kind of the expectation of we want to get back there? What was the process like for you guys to get everybody ready for this year?
I think there was a commitment. I mean, last year, obviously we weren't projected to even win the section, and we're able to pull off an upset beating Holdingford last year. And there was just a commitment this off season, both in the weight room and with some wrestling as well. And the kids, they've been having this date on their calendar for a long time. There's definitely a commitment amongst the kids, the coaches, and the community. It's going to be a fun weekend.
So I'm always interested in every club, every coach, every team has a little different philosophy. The goal of making a state tournament as a team, and then for individuals as well. Is this a vocal goal? Are coaches and wrestlers talking about this? Is it implied all season long, and you just kind of need to take care of things on a day-by-day basis?
I think that it's more of a focus on the process of, continuous improvement, growth, getting better in positions, and really focusing on that team culture, team atmosphere. I think the coaches do a really good job of that. And the kids really understand that, their job may be different dependent upon the team that we're wrestling. And, our kids are committed to that. And I think that's a huge asset that we have as a team that we continue to keep doing. Everybody does their job, everybody plays their role, and that's how you build that team culture, team camaraderie, and that seems to be more of a focus than the results. It's our philosophy as coaches is score early, score often, score last, and if you do that, you're going to win a lot of matches and win a lot of duels.
And over the course of the season, obviously you guys have had some pretty big moments, some pretty big highlights. What are a few that stand out to you kind of over the course of the season of things that no matter what happens at the state tournament, you guys are going to remember throughout that regular season?
Yeah. So, I mean, we obviously have had a really good season up to this point. We're 21-3. Our 3 losses that we took were down at the Clash, which this was our first year going down there. And we knew that our schedule this year was going to be a lot tougher than in years past. And that was a little bit purposeful because of, some of the goals and some of the things that these kids and coaches have set for our program. And I think in the long run, it has paid off. Some of the big wins, we've wrestled and beat Becker, who's a perennial powerhouse in AA, Stillwater, who's a top 5 team in AAA. I guess I can go Holdingford twice, Simley, who's they've been a state championship team. And like I said, our kids and coaches have embraced that and really found a way to continue to grow and develop, and from a technical standpoint, also from a conditioning standpoint, and really embrace that so that we can focus on that continuous improvement and growth over the course of the season. So, and we say this all the time, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And so, with that in mind, that's continuing to be our vision and our focus as we enter the state tournament.
We might jump around as far as the timeline of the season goes, but I actually want to jump ahead a little bit to the section tournament and Holdingford. And before we talk, I guess, specifically about that match, this has turned itself into the last couple of years. It's kind of a dynamite rivalry between Staples-Motley and Holdingford. What is it about that program that it seems like from a distance you guys just seem to pull the best out of each other? Is it just the teams match up so well against each other where you guys are strong, that maybe they aren't as much, where they're strong, you aren't? What is it about this matchup and this rivalry that's really developed into pretty something dynamic in the state?
Yeah, I mean, I got to give a lot of credit to Holdingford, their kids and coaches. They put together a really, really solid program. And we knew that that was going to be a close duel up at the Rick Lee duels in Bemidji. We were able to win 31-27 up there. And then in the section tournament, they had a lot of things going for themselves. They ended up getting the flip to where they got the matchups that they wanted to get. They weighed in a couple guys a little different than they did at the Rick Lee duels. And we knew it was going to be tight. And that goes back to that point that I made earlier. Everybody has to do their job in order for us to get a team win. And, our kids really, I think the biggest thing that night is they persevered through some adversity that maybe we hadn't been faced all year. And honestly, that was, in my mind, the biggest difference is our kids handled the pressure pretty well and faced the adversity, and everybody did their job. And, it was a huge win. That place was packed. The environment was just wild. It was, anybody that was there, you couldn't hear the announcer. You couldn't hear the buzzer. You had to have a towel tapper because it was absolutely an environment and to remember. And, hats off to Holding Ford for hosting that, because it was, anybody that was there, it's not a night that'll be forgotten for sure.
Yeah. And, just with obviously the Staples-Motley wrestling program history and with what you guys are able to do and just how much does this obviously mean to you guys as a team and to the kids, but to the Staples-Motley community in general, just to kind of have that wrestling program on the map again, and just kind of some of the things that they're able to do being really well. How has that been received in the community?
Well, I have to give hats off to our community, our supporters, our alumni. The sea of red was in Holding Ford that night, and I anticipate the same thing at the state tournament. Our fans and our alumni and our supporters have continued to travel very well and support our kids and coaches and our team. I think it's been 40 years since the last state title in Staples-Motley. So, it's certainly something that we want to continue to keep as a vision or pursue, but it's one match at a time down at the state tournament, and we're certainly not looking past UNC, but it's a goal of ours to achieve that. And we hope that we can have that opportunity to kind of live off of the foundation that has really been set in this program. You can't mention Staples-Motley without mentioning Don Dravis and the Dravis family and what they've done for this program, and all the alumni. The kids recognize that they're not just wrestling for themselves or for the coaches or for their families, but they're wrestling for, the history and the integrity of this program. And it really does mean a lot to our former wrestlers, our current wrestlers, and hopefully our prospective wrestlers, the young kids that are coming through our program.
It's funny you put all of that into perspective about Staples-Motley wrestling and the past and the foundation, like you mentioned, that exists in that school. But also there's a pretty fun recent history, especially with these group of boys, even just going back to this fall, and then last winter being at the state tournament, wrestling state tournament. Baseball had a nice year with the boys. The football, we obviously know what football did this fall. There's some precedent now being set amongst this group, but then you look at some of the other teams who are at this state wrestling tournament, and they're going to look very familiar to some teams we saw this fall at state football. When you take the history of Staples-Motley wrestling and you combine it with the state tournament trip this year, and a Chatfield and a Jackson County Central and the XL Energy Center. It's easy to get emotional. And right. How do you keep emotions in check as a wrestler, as a coaching staff for this? It's a lot.
Right. Yeah. I can tell you that our kids they put the work in, they put the time in. I can't say enough good things about our coaching staff. Obviously that's led by Jim Jackson, but I think it's important to mention, Dan Birga, the work that he's he's doing every single day in practice with the kids. Mark Carlson, Eric Kramer, Holt Truax. We have a ton of coaches that are committed to the kids, the program, and I think the results in the end will take care of themselves. If we score early, we score often, and we score last, we're going to be in a position that I think we'll be happy with the results. The results will take care of themselves. It's really the work up to this point that the kids have put in and the coaches have put in. It's been countless hours, not just in practice either. It's the things that are done in the morning. There are things that are done outside of the season, and the preparation that goes into all of this is pretty amazing. So.
And looking now at the state tournament, obviously with the team matchup, you guys have UNC first up. You guys were the 2 seed going into the tournament, UNC on the random draw. Obviously a familiar face just in terms of central Minnesota here, but what do you know about the UNC Warrior team, and kind of what's the keys to victory for your squad?
Well, preseason they were a top 5 team, and they're a very good team. They're very scrappy. They're well coached. They're a type of team that can be scary. And I'm friends with some of the people over in the Monagasabika area, and certainly know them well. They're going to come ready to wrestle. They'll be committed to trying to get a few upset wins against us. And if they do so, it's going to be a tight duel. So we're going to have to make sure we take care of business and we do our jobs and everybody plays their role. And I'll tell you this, our kids will be ready to go. They'll be prepared, and hopefully we continue to do what we've done all year. And that's, start strong and continue through our entire lineup, and everybody doing their job will be in hopefully good shape at the end of the duel.
One of the things I like to ask coaches when we get to postseason and beyond is what's a story from this season that maybe we don't know? We know about the expectations for Staples-Motley Wrestling coming into the year. We know the recent history and the recent successes, but is there something behind the scenes that maybe it's in practice, maybe it's from a tournament during the year that is kind of like a scene setter, a nice storyline for Staples-Motley Cardinal Wrestling that encompasses what this season has turned into?
Yeah, I can't pinpoint one thing, Corey, but I can tell you that there are some kids that have made some sacrifices and done what has always been best for the team. And we've had kids that have been in and out of our lineups. We've had kids with, some minor injuries where other people stepped up. One that comes to mind is, Riley Reese. He wrestled 172 for us, at the beginning of the season. And, he made a commitment to, make the weight at 152 and ended up making the state tournament. And we can go up and down the lineup with a lot of our guys, but I think the commitment that he made really solidified the middle of our lineup and really gave us an opportunity to do some things through the middle where maybe we wouldn't have had that opportunity had he not made that sacrifice. And, like I said, we can go up and down the lineup. We got guys, Turner Beachy is wrestling really, really well right now. At the beginning of the season, coming off the football season, a lot of those football guys were a little beat up, not in wrestling shape, but they're certainly peaking at the right time. I can't say enough good things about our big guys. They have really grown and matured and are wrestling really well. Adrian Gomez, Dustin Converse, Stephen Petrich, those guys have really found their niche to how they can be successful in the wrestling world. And down low, I mean, we start really strong when you got, Garrett Birga, Caden Kramer, Gage Birga, Caden Eisen, Eli Greenwald, Turner Beachy. I mean, we've got some we've got some firepower down there that has really helped us get off to a strong start. And those guys, they know their job, they know their role, and they continue to keep impressing. And we're hoping that they can do the same thing down at the state tournament.
Yeah, and like you said, there's a lot of expectations that you guys came into the season with, and there's a lot of expectations going into the tournament. Just overall, you guys feel very good about where you're at and just trying to get into that tournament and make some noise down there. But, when you guys get down to the X, what's the message? What's the thing that you guys as a coaching staff are doing, telling the kids to get them prepared? Because you do have to balance that line, right? Like, you need to tell them, hey, it's just another match. You need to treat it like one, but also it's the state tournament. This is what you work for, and this is all that stuff. So kind of what's the message to the kids, and what's the line kind of between, what's the line between enjoying the moment while also being prepared and ready to go?
I think it just comes back to the preparation that we have put in up to this point. It is another match, but our kids are going to be well prepared. Our coaching staff has done an amazing job all year preparing kids for moments like this. And I think that's the key, is we've wrestled in some really big moments, and we were very purposeful about our schedule this year to prepare them for moments like this. And to me, that's what our coaches do well. I mean, we prepare the athletes are responsible to execute, and we're going to put them in the best positions that we can in order for them to be successful. And, we hope that preparation allows them to execute and do their job, and everybody plays their role. And I think if we do that, we're going to have some success.
Well, it's going to be fun. Once again, another great season. Before we let you get out of here, obviously, good luck to the team and the Staples-Motley wrestling community. Is there anything else that you need to mention that we know heading into this state tournament that we need to know about Cardinal wrestling?
Well, it's we're hoping to see a sea of red down at the XL. Like I mentioned earlier, our fans have traveled well all year long, and I certainly hope again this year we have the largest crowd down at the XL. Last year it was amazing, and I don't expect anything different this year. Our students are excited, our staff is excited. Our community is excited. Alumni has been very, very supportive. And, I think that it's important to recognize, some of these people that put the work in on the back end for these kids. I'd probably be doing a disservice if I didn't recognize the wrestling moms and all the work that they put in behind the scenes for the care packages, the food, all that. And obviously, Josh Lee is our athletic director. He has done an amazing job, been very supportive. I can't say enough good things about the people that we have supporting our program. And, it almost gets you emotional to the point of where these opportunities don't come around that often. And so we tell that to the kids all the time, is like, you embrace the opportunity, enjoy the moment, because there's kids all over the state that don't get these opportunities. So enjoy it, embrace it, and, appreciate the people, say thank you. All those things matter, because in the end, these are the memories that these kids and parents and coaches are going to have for the rest of their life. And to me, that's the experience of what the state wrestling tournament or any state tournament for that matter is. And, again, I want to make sure that I also thank you guys. You've done an amazing job with Staples-Motley Athletics, Sports Cow, 105.9. You guys have done, we so appreciate the support and the coverage that we get from you. So thank you.
Yeah, no, it's fun to follow when the teams are rocking like this. So Staples-Motley assistant wrestling coach and superintendent Shane Tappe joining us here on the Morning Sports Desk State Wrestling Tournament Preview Special. Coach, appreciate the time and best of luck down in the tournament, all right?
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Powered by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Follow the Morning Sports Desk on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And watch every show on YouTube.